All right, everybody. What's up? Welcome. We're glad you're here. It's August 4th, 2014, 6 p.m. Central Time. My name is Matt McCoy. I'm with Loop Community. And I'm coming to you right now from the Loop Community offices in Chicago. And today we're going to talk about, we're going to continue our summer webinar series on training videos. And we're going to talk about Intro to Ableton Live. So if you're just getting started with the idea of using tracks in worship, loops, multi-tracks, I'm going to help you kind of get started. We're going to look at Ableton Live and how you can get going with that. So that being said, let's just get started. So I'm going to open up Live, and this is what Ableton Live looks like when you first open it up. Now, this software, it works the exact same on both Mac and PC. It comes in 3 different versions: Intro, Standard, and Suite. Everything I'm going to show you today, you can do an intro, which starts at $99. So the reason I say that right at the top is because a lot of times people just write it off very quickly because they're like, well, I can't afford, a couple $100s on music software. So I just want to say that right off the top that it's very affordable music software, $99. And you can do a ton with it. You can record your own music. You can build set lists and run tracks. You could automate your lyrics in ProPresenter. You could automate your lighting cues. There's so much you can do with it for a very little investment. So if you ever want to get really intense into recording with it, like recording an album, then you probably want to get Standard or Suite. And it gets a little bit more expensive there. But it's just because they give you more sounds in Standard and Suite. So anyways, to run tracks, we're going to use Live Intro. And so right now I'm actually running Live Suite, but everything I'm going to show you, you can do an intro. So anyways, when you first open up Live, you're going to see this. And this is what's called Session View. Live has 2 views to it: Session View and then Arrangement View. If I hit the Tab key, it'll flip over to Arrangement View. Arrangement View looks like your standard recording software, where you've got audio tracks, and then they go down a timeline horizontally from left to right. So this looks like, GarageBand, Pro Tools, Logic, or whatever music software you've used before. So that's Arrangement View. If we're going to use Live to record or make our own music, then Arrangement View is perfect for that. And there's a webinar that we did a couple days ago called Building Your Own Loops, and we look at Arrangement View. So I would highly suggest you get on our YouTube channel and find that webinar if you're interested in learning more about this view. But the main view we're going to look at is called Session View, and you just hit the Tab key to get there. And Session View kind of looks like Microsoft Excel, where it's made up of audio tracks that are vertical, and then it's made up of what are called scenes, and those are these horizontal rows that go across. Think of a scene as a song. So right now I've got 8 songs in my set list, and I have 3 tracks, so 3 instruments and 8 songs. You kind of have to look at it like a grid. So let's just hit delete. We're going to build a set list together from scratch. We're going to do 3 songs in our set, so I just hit the delete key to get rid of some of those scenes. And then let me go ahead and delete that 3rd track. And we're going to start with 2 tracks. Our first track, I'm going to rename it. I'm going to call it Band Cues. And on this track is where we're going to put all of our band cues. So we're going to have a little guy that's going to tell us where to go, like verse, 2, 3, 4, etc. So let's go over here and look at, let's go ahead and pick some songs out. So on the left-hand side of the screen, this whole section here, this is called Live's File Browser. The top section is where you would find sounds for recording or making music. So if you're looking for drum sounds, you can click and find drum sounds that you like. Or if you're looking for maybe a piano, here's where you can find different piano sounds. Audio effects, reverbs, delays, compressors, all that stuff. We're going to look at this section down here called Places, and this is a way of accessing files on your computer. So I could click on Desktop, and it's going to show me whatever files are currently on my desktop. I have a shortcut here to a folder on my computer where I keep all of my worship songs for multi-tracks. So these are all tracks that I've downloaded from Loop Community. Now let's go and pick our first song. Our first song is going to be This Is Amazing Grace. Now notice that I've got a bunch of files in here. They're named by the song title, the tempo of the song, so 98, the key of the song, so B flat, and then what that file is. So this one's programming. The next one is electric guitar, drums, BGV, bass, acoustic. So we're going to drag in the cue file and just drop it right there. If I hit play on it,
intro,
you can listen to that audio file. And it's going to play from left to right throughout the entire song arrangement. Let's go and bring in another track. So we want to bring in the programming. So I'm going to bring that in here. I could rename this track if I wanted to, but I'm not going to right now. If you want to bring in another one, just drag and drop and let go, and it's going to create a new track for you. So you could just keep dragging in whatever instruments you want to use. I just held Command to select multiple files, and now you can drag and drop. But notice how it's trying to drop them in vertically. We want to drop them in horizontally. So all you do is you hold the Command key, and it'll drop them in horizontally. So now I could hit play on each one of these clips. Let's see what it sounds like.
Intro, 2, 3, 4.
Alright, so they're all playing, but they're not in time with each other. And that's because I hit the play button at different times. So you don't want to use these play buttons. What you want to do is use the play button that's over here on the scene. When I hit this play button, or launch button, it's going to play every single audio clip in that row at the same time.
Intro, 2, 3, 4.
Right? So now it's all in time together. So let's rename our first song. I'm going to call it This Is Amazing Grace. And let's pick another song out. So our second song will be, how about Our God is Greater? Now this one I don't have as many tracks. This is what's called a split track. So I'm going to bring the cues in here and the stereo loop file here. And let's hit play and see what that sounds like.
Intro, 2, 3, 4.
Okay. I noticed that this cue file is actually a lot quieter than the other one, so we'll fix that in a little bit. Let's pick our third song out. So our third song is going to be, how about Only King Forever by Elevation Worship. I'm going to drag the cues in here, and now I'm just going to hold Shift and select all these tracks. Then I can hold Command and deselect which ones I don't want. Then click and drag, hold Command to drop them in. And notice it made a bunch of tracks for me, which is great. Alright, let's rename these. Only King Forever. And the second song, let's rename it. It was Our God is Greater. Okay, cool. Hey, by the way, if you guys have any questions at all as I continue, feel free to type them into the chat box, and I will try to answer them as I'm going here. Kyle, welcome from Faith Church of God. Joel, welcome. Dan, welcome from Bloomington, Minnesota. And Isaac, welcome. I'm glad that these videos have helped you guys. All right, let's add one more song. So to add another song, you just right-click and go to Insert Scene, and it's going to create a new row for me. Now this song, we don't have tracks for, but we want to at least have a metronome. So I'm going to right-click and rename it. It's going to be Revelation Song. Okay, so that's our fourth song. Now if you're anything like me, all these colors are going to drive me nuts. So what you can do is you can right-click, you can hold Shift and select all these clips, and then right-click and choose a color. And you can also change the color of the song title. So let's change the color of Our God, and let's change the color of Only King Forever. I feel like the colors, especially in a live worship or live performance setting, the colors make it a lot easier just to glance down and know exactly what song you're clicking on. So you want to use these play buttons. You don't want to use these, because otherwise they're going to be out of time with each other. Alright, now let's go ahead and hit play. And
Intro, 2, 3, 4.
we don't have a metronome, so let's turn the metronome on. Up in the top left corner of the screen, this is your metronome control center. You could tap in a tempo. You could type in a tempo or click and drag to set the tempo. Here's the time signature, so we're at 4/4. And then here's the metronome on and off button. So let's turn it on, and then let's hit play on Argod and see what happens.
Intro 2, 3, 4.
Okay, so the metronome is going, but it's not in time with the tracks at all. And the reason it's not in time is because the metronome is playing at 71 BPM, but Argod is greater is at 105. So we need to tell the metronome, okay, when we play Argod is greater, change the tempo to 105. So all you do is just right click on Argod and go to Edit Launch Tempo. Launch is basically the same word as play. So we're saying, okay, when we play this song, when we play Argod, change the tempo. I'm going to type it in. Change the tempo to 105. And now check it out when I hit play. Watch what happens to the metronome.
Intro 2, 3, 4.
It's in time with our tracks. Cool, so we also need to do the same thing for our other songs. Otherwise, it's going to stay at 105. It stays at whatever you last told it to do. So let's right click on This Is Amazing Grace, and let's change this one to 98. Again, I'm knowing that because the track title has the tempo in it. And then Only King Forever, Edit Launch Tempo, 138. And let me set Revelation Song at 76. Now another thing you might want to be able to set is the time signature. That's important for if you go from a song from 6/8 to 4/4. So for This Is Amazing Grace, let's right click and go to Edit Launch Time Signature. And now I can just type in, we want to do it in 4/4. And then Argod, let's do this one in 2/8. And Only King Forever, let's do this one in 4/8. And Revelation Song, let's do this in 4/4. Whoops. You can also right click and rename. And if you want, you can actually just type it in from the beginning. So check this out. I could name my entire song, Revelation Song, and then do a semicolon, 76 BPM. You have to put the BPM in there, that's important. And then semicolon, time signature, 4-4. So if you don't want to right click and do the Edit Launch Tempo or Edit Launch Time Signature, then you can just type it in. So Kyle asks, is there any ability in Ableton that will automatically find the tempo of the track if the tempo is not known? Kind of. What you could do is you could just hit this warp button and then tell it where the first downbeat is and right click and go to set 111 here. So hit warp, find the first downbeat, right click set 111 here, and then do warp from here, and it will kind of identify the BPM for you. However, I would just prefer just to tap it in. Tap in a tempo and see which one's close. Okay, Joe says, were the songs from Loop Community created using Live? If so, why do the files you are loading look different? That's an interesting question. I'm not sure I totally understand. What I'm loading in here are just audio files. They're just WAV files. So if you double click on one, it'll show you the actual WAV file here. These are all available at Loop Community, and they're just audio files. There's nothing special about them. You could use them in any music software you want. Okay, so let's look at Revelation Song. So when I hit play on Revelation Song, notice that nothing happens. When I hit play on Only King Forever,
Intro 2, 3, 4.
it works. But if I hit play on Revelation Song, nothing happens. And that's because there's nothing in that row for it to play. So it kind of is saying, well, I'm not going to play anything. So what you got to do is you got to just trick it. I'm going to go to Create, Insert MIDI Track. And we're going to call this like click only. And now that I have a MIDI track, I can just double click right here. And it's going to give me a blank MIDI clip that I would use to record in. And now that something's there, when I hit play on Revelation Song, it's going to play the click for me. So that's a very helpful trick if you need to get a metronome. Isaac says, do you need spaces between the name of the song, tempo, and time signature? No, but you do need semicolons. Okay, so we've got 4 songs in our set. Now, if you decided to rearrange them, you could. You just click and drag. So if I wanted Only King Forever to be at the top, just click and drag and drop, and it'll move all those audio files up with it, which is cool. So you can rearrange your set list, which is very, very nice. Okay, so we've got 4 songs. Now, let's just say you get into rehearsal, and you're like, well, Our God is Greater feels a little slow. We want to speed it up. Or the key is a little low. Or we want to raise it, or we want to lower it. We can do that with Live by using a feature called warping. And what warping is it's a way of time stretching audio, so speeding audio up, slowing audio down without it losing its quality or its timing. And the reason that Ableton's are really good at this is because this software is actually designed and developed for DJs. So if you've ever heard like a remix, where you hear like a Katy Perry song and then some techno song that are at 2 totally different tempos originally and 2 totally different keys originally, but somehow they've mixed them together, that is them utilizing warping. So we're going to use that to just be able to change the tempo and key of our tracks. And it's really simple to do. However, if you don't follow steps clearly, it can throw you off. So the first thing you want to do when you first download Live to your computer is you want to go to Live and go to Preferences. And there's a tab that says Record Warp Launch. Under Record Warp Launch, there's an option in here that says Auto Warp Long Samples. You want to make sure that that's turned off, because we want to do all this manually. So make sure that's off. Now, the next thing we're going to do to warp these files is I'm going to go ahead and set my global tempo to 105. You need to set it to the original click of the song, or the original tempo of the song. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hit the warp button. When you double click on an audio file, it brings up this box, and you can hit warp. And what Ableton did is it went through and it analyzed the audio, and it found all of the downbeats, and it added a marker next to them. See the markers? Now that it's warped, let me go ahead and warp the cue file as well. You want to make sure you warp every file that's in the song. Otherwise, if you warp one and the other, they're not going to be in time with each other. So let's go ahead and hit play. I'm going to show you what happens.
Intro, 2, 3.
So now that it's warped, I can change the tempo on the fly. If I want to speed it up, I'm just clicking and dragging in the tempo box. And now you could do this song as fast as you wanted to, or slow. Once you identify a tempo that you want, you can go here again and right-click, edit launch tempo, and change it to 110 if you want.
Intro, 2.
And now it'll always play back at 110. Now that it's warped, you can also change the key by just double-clicking and then changing this knob here that says transpose. These go up half steps and down half steps. So let's go ahead and listen to it. And you can just transpose your tracks and put it whatever key you want it to be in. Now there's a feature here that says complex. This is the warp mode.
2, 3, 4.
Beats would work really good as if what we were warping were just drum beats. But what we're warping here has a lot more in it. There's like keys and tambourine and like synth. So we want to change that to complex or texture. So I'm going to change it to complex and listen to how much better it sounds
3, 4.
versus this. Hear how it's a little choppy? Let me change it to complex. Ready? Here we go. Much smoother. Let's go back. Choppy, smooth. So that's a trick that you might want to utilize for sure. Now you can warp really fast. So let's just say I need to warp This Is Amazing Grace. Let me go and just set the tempo. So make sure the tempo in the top left corner is set to 98. Now just hold shift and select all those tracks, hit warp, change them all to complex, and that's it, you're done. So this entire song now is warped, which means I can hit play.
Intro 2, 3, 4.
And now that I can transpose the tracks by just holding shift, and I can transpose them and put in whatever key I want it to be in. And let's speed it up. Alright, so that's cool. So you can warp really fast and change the tempo, change the key of any track that you want. Now the only thing you don't want to change the pitch on are the band cues, because otherwise you get something like this.
Intro 2, 3, 4.
Which might freak your band out. Or maybe you want to do that, might be kind of fun.
Intro 2, 3, 4.
Intro 2, 3, 4. Anyways, alright, let me look at some questions here. So, Joe says, my song files, when I click on my folder, my song opens with an Ableton file. Okay, so I'm not sure where you got your tracks, but there should be a folder inside of that Ableton file folder called samples or imported. And those are the audio files you want to drag in. Sounds like you're trying to drag in an Ableton session. And you want to actually drag in the audio files from that Ableton session. So Joe, if you can go ahead and type into the chat box of where you're getting your tracks, that would help me, because it doesn't sound like you're getting them from Loop Community. Okay, so let me go ahead and let's go ahead and continue. So we've got our 4 songs set up. We've done warping, so changing the key and the tempo. Let's talk about audio routing. So how do we actually get the audio out of our computer and into our church sound system? So I'm going to show you a diagram. We're going to go to training and go to Loop University. And I'm going to go to a diagram here that says basic hookup diagram. This is going to show you how we're going to set this up. So I've got my laptop, and then we're going to use our headphone jack to get the audio out. Now your headphone jack has 2 sides to it. You've got the left-hand side of your headphone jack, and you have the right-hand side of your headphone jack. That's kind of audio 101. Just that a lot of times people think, well, there's only one output because it's one jack. But actually you have 2 outputs, because you have the left channel and you have the right channel. So what we're going to do is we're going to pan the click and the cues to the left-hand side, and we're going to pan the loop and all the tracks to the right-hand side. Then we're going to plug them into 2 DIs, and so these are just direct boxes that you probably have laying around your church that you usually plug in a guitar or a piano into. The loop is going to go right into your soundboard or your snake, and that's going to be, you have to think of this as another instrument in your band, and you're going to tell your sound guy to turn it up. The click, you get this to your bands in your monitors. So however the band is going to be able to hear the actual metronome to stay on time. And hear those little band cues. Verse, 2, 3, 4. So, to tell the tracks to actually pan, we're going to open up in the bottom right corner of the screen, there's a little button that says I/O, and this means in and out. I'm going to click that. And now now you can see all of the tracks opened up the in and out settings for them. Let me close it again so you can see what happened. So these are the in and out settings. Down here where it says audio to, what that means is, okay, where's the audio going to? So right now it says master. I'm going to change it to external out. I'm going to make it channel 1, which is left. 2 is right. That's just something I guess you have to remember. All the rest of them, I'm going to just let it go to my master. And then on my master over here, I'm going to tell it to go at output 2. The click and the cues, I'm going to say go output 1. So my band cues over here are going out 1. My Ableton metronome goes out what's called cue out over here. I'm going to set that to 1. And then all my tracks, those are all going to master. and the master is going out 2. So let's hit play and see what that sounds like.
Intro 2, 3, 4.
Let me do this track.
Intro 2, 3, 4.
Let me turn the metronome on. There we are. So you can hear the panning. Cool, right?
Band 2.
So just for our audio purposes, I'm going to set these back to 1 and 2 so we can hear them fully. And what I want to talk about now, so that's your audio routing. That's how you actually tell Ableton to send these different tracks out different outputs. And we were just using our headphone jack with a cable that you can get on Amazon for like $3. And it's just a headphone cable that splits to 2 1/4-inch cables. Okay. Let me show you a few tricks here. I noticed that some of these track volumes were different. So I was looking mainly at the band cues. The band cues on Our God is Greater were a lot quieter. And if you click on them, you can actually visually see the volume difference. Like those are definitely a lot quieter than This Is Amazing Grace. So these, you notice that every single channel has a fader on it. You can turn things up and down. It also has a mute button, solo button. However, you don't want to use these because if I turn it down here, it's going to also turn it down for every single one of my songs that has a clip in that row. So if I, for example, if I were like, yeah, it's really loud on Only King Forever, so I'm going to turn it down. But then I go to This Is Amazing Grace and it's still down because that track is on this fader still. So you want to always leave these at their default. To set them back to default, just click and then hit delete and it'll set it right back to default. So instead of using these, you want to actually double click on the clip itself, and down here there's an actual volume control for that individual clip, and we want to use that and turn it up. And this is kind of easy because you can actually visually see by just looking at it how loud it is. And so I just try to kind of visually match it as long as you get close. There we go. So it looks a lot better. Those all look about the same height. Now if you want to mute a clip, you can just right click on it and go to deactivate. So that way you're just deactivating those clips where if you were to use this mute button, you're actually muting every single thing that's on these tracks. And that would not be a good plan. So if you right click on a clip, you can deactivate. If you double click on a clip, you can come here and turn down the volume or turn up the volume of the clip. So hopefully that'll help. Let's look at how do we actually control these tracks. So if we want to actually get the tracks out of our computer,
Intro
and
2, 3, 4.
how do we actually get them? How do we actually like start playing them? So one of the questions that we get a lot is, well, who in the band should run the tracks? And this really comes down to just a preference. Sometimes when you see a laptop up on stage, you'll see it backed by the drummer, or you'll see it by the keyboard player. So let's talk about that. Like if you want your keyboard player or someone else in your band to run them, how are we going to get them to run them without it being awkward? Because what you don't want to have happen is you don't want to have the drummer, finish the first song and then turn to his computer and try to find his mouse and then try to find the song and then hit play, because it just adds like a little awkward transition. So what we're going to do is we're going to set up key commands on the laptop keyboard so that he can just hit a key on his keyboard and it'll start the song. So to do that, there's a little button in the top right corner that says key. And when you hit that, anything that you see that turned orange can be assigned to a key on your laptop keyboard. So I'm going to click on Only King Forever and hit 1. And you can see that it assigned 1 to Only King Forever. Let's do This Is Amazing Grace. I'm going to click on This Is Amazing Grace and hit 2. Our God, I'm going to click on that, hit 3. Revelation Song and hit 4. And that's it. Now I can leave key mode and I could just tell my drummer, hey, let's play song 3. And he can reach over and just hit 3 on his keyboard.
Intro 2, 3,
And it's going to play song 3. Spacebar will stop the track and he could hit button 1 to start song 1.
Intro. 2, 3, 4.
Let me turn the metronome back on. Hit spacebar. Button 2 will start song 2.
Intro. 2, 3, 4.
Spacebar, and so forth. So pretty simple. Now let's say that you, as the worship leader, want to run them. And this is my actual personal preference because I feel like no one else in the band knows better of when I want to stop or start a song than I do. Because, you know, maybe I want to say something or pray in between songs. So I kind of want to keep control of when we start and stop. But I'm a guitar player, so I don't have my hands free. So I'm going to use a foot controller. And the foot controller I'm going to be using is a controller called Looptimus. If you go to looptimus.com, here's the controller, and it's a USB foot controller. And what we're going to do is I'm going to set up this button to be button song 1. This one's going to be song 2. This is song 3 and song 4. And then I'm going to make this button, the stop button, just stop all the tracks. So to do that, you just plug in the controller, and then in the top right corner, there's a button that says MIDI. And you turn that on. And now anything that you see that turned blue can be assigned to an external keyboard or a MIDI controller. So I'm going to click on Unlinking Forever and then hit a button. And you can see that it is not doing anything. I know that Ableton sees the controller because in the top right corner you can see this little yellow light blinking, which means Ableton can see it, which is a good step. But the reason it's not assigning is because we need to change something in preferences. So we're going to go to MIDI, and here I can see my little keyboard I'm using. This is a nano key keyboard. I'm going to turn on remote, because remote means use this as a remote control, basically. So make sure remote is turned on. Let's go back to MIDI, and I'm going to click on Unlinking Forever and hit the key that I want to assign to that song. And it assigned that key to that song. Next song, another key. Our God, another key. Revelation song, another key. And then my stop button is going to be a different button. There we go. Now I can leave MIDI mode, and that's it. I'm ready to go. Song 1.
Intro. 2, 3, 4.
Song
Intro.
2.
2, 3, 4.
Song 4.
Intro. 2, 3,
Or 3.
4.
And then stop button to stop all the tracks. So that's a way to automate it, or not automate it, but at least assign a controller, an external controller, to stop and start your tracks. Does anybody have any questions at all about things that we've covered so far? While we'll be looking at some questions here. Okay, so Kyle just asked a question of something I was even going to show you right now. So his question was, I know that you're able to set points in arrangement view, for instance, to repeat a verse or a chorus or go back. Can you do this in session view? And the answer to that is actually yes. You can do it in session view. So here's a demo I'm going to show you. The first 8 songs in this set are exactly like what we've been doing so far, where I've got tracks that are going to play from the beginning all the way to the end. So, tracks all the way from the beginning to the end. But what I did down here is now I put each section of a song on its own row. So each section of a song has its own row. So I've got verse, chorus, interlude, bridge. And Ableton works in something called quantization, which means it waits to the next downbeat to do what you tell it to do. So let me go and start the click. And let's go to the verse. Click it, and it'll go to the verse. And then when you click it, chorus. But it's waiting for the next downbeat to go. So you can jump around the song all you want. Now the way that you get these broken up into sections, let's go ahead and make some new sections here. We're going to do Lay Me Down. So I just hit Command I to make new scenes. I'm going to rename these to intro, verse, pre-chorus. And let's make this last one chorus. And then to go ahead and break these down into sections, we have to use Arrangement View. So if you come over to Arrangement View, you can bring your tracks over here by just dragging and dropping them in, and then mark them out into sections. And then all you do is you just copy and paste those sections. So here's my intro. I'm going to highlight it, copy, bring it over here, hit paste. Let's do the same thing for the verse. Highlight the verse, copy, paste. And then for the chorus, I guess there isn't a pre-chorus on this song. Copy and paste. And now I can have these into sections. So I can hit play on the intro. Let's go to the verse. Here we go. Click it. Here it goes. Let's go to the chorus. 2, 3, 4. Let's go back to the verse. So that's how you can break your songs up into sections. Now, it's important to know that with live intro, you're limited to 8 rows, which means if you're wanting to break your songs up into sections, you can't really do that with live intro. You just won't have enough scenes or rows to do that. So you need to get standard or suite, which gives you unlimited. It really depends how you're running tracks. You have to kind of think about your worship leading style and how often you jump around in a song. I used to set up all of my songs in sections like this, just because I liked the idea of being able to be spontaneous and jump around. And then I realized that actually I'm not that spontaneous. That actually whenever I play Forever Rain or How He Loves or whatever, I end up playing the song the same way every time anyway. And if I do change it up, it's at the end of the song. I decide to do another down chorus or another bridge. So you got to kind of think and be honest with yourself about how you lead. If you literally do change up your song arrangements in the middle of a set, where you just throw in like another chorus in the middle of the song, then running them like this is a great option for you. But if you find that actually, when you kind of change things up, it's usually at the end of the song anyway, then save yourself the hassle and the work and just run the tracks like this as a full arrangement. And then when the song is over, just stop the click, or keep the click going, and do your spontaneous moment. Do another down bridge, do another chorus, whatever. Isaac says, do the sections move on to the next automatically from verse to chorus, or do you have to manually play each section? Yeah, they are manual. You could download a third-party plugin called Follow by Ableton Studios. It's like $10, and it does let you set up what are called like scene follow actions, which say like when this scene is done playing, go to this scene. You can also set up follow actions down here, but it gets a little complicated, and it's hard to do with a bunch of clips at once. So I guess the easy answer to that question is no, you have to do them manually. Unless you want to get like a third-party plugin called Follow by Isotonic Studios. It's a really cool plugin. It's only $10, and it'll do exactly what you're wanting to do. Cool. I'm going to play some music here. If you guys have any questions at all, just go and type them into the chat window.
1, 2, 3, intro.
Hopefully this has been helpful for you. If
1, 2, 3, verse.
if you want to take off, you can go ahead and take off. We can go ahead and kind of say that this is the end of the webinar, but if you guys have any more questions at all, go ahead and type them in, and I'll hang out here for a few more minutes and help you out. So thanks for coming. Thanks for joining us tonight. Hope this helped you get going. I'll be here for a few more minutes.
1, 2, 3, chorus. 1, 2, 3, verse. 1, 2, 3, chorus. 1, 2, 3, chorus. 1, 2, 3, bridge.
'Alright, everybody. I'm going to sign off, but thanks for coming. We're glad you came. If you want to join us for any of our other webinars, check out our Facebook page. We've got a bunch of other stuff, cool stuff coming up. How to automate Pro Presenter, how to use Looptimus, how to use Prime, how to build your own tracks. So, check it out on our Facebook page. Thanks for being a part
2,
of the community. We're glad that you're with us, and we'll see you soon. Bye.
1, 2.